He fights like a boxer. He doesn't fight like a guy who's trying to box in a celebrity boxing match.
Right hook, knockout, left hook, knockout, straight uppercut, left, right hook, knockout, 1, 2 combination.
Jake Paul shocked the boxing world as the first YouTuber to make a significant impact in the sport. Prior to each of his fights, many predicted his defeat, but he consistently silenced the critics with victories over increasingly prominent opponents. Let's discover how he was able to defeat these elite fighters. AnesonGib. Jake Paul faced AnesonGib in his first professional fight, constantly overpowering him and breaking Gibb's nose with straight punches. Gibb's aggressive style, categorized by a barrage of hooks, was unable to prevent Paul's impressive victory. To comprehend how he succeeded, it's important to get back to the beginning of the fight. Although Gib is a pressuring fighter, Paul employs a distinct approach, methodically breaking down his opponents and waiting for the optimal moment to strike for the knockout. For Jake Paul, this fight was a test of patience. Novice boxers often lose control and start brawling after missing a few punches. This was Gibb's strategy as he tried to pressure Jake with a barrage of punches. However, Paul demonstrated his superior fighting intelligence, calmly weathering the attack and finding the right moment to strike for the knockout. He didn't need to rely on KSI mode. It was clear that Paul wouldn't be rattled, and Jake Paul's answers is a jab, a hook, and a straight. In this fight, he expertly used all three to defeat AnesonGib. By expertly placing his jabs, Jake maintained his distance, used hooks to keep Gib at bay, and threw jabs to distract him. At the perfect moment, he delivered a knockout blow with a devastating straight, causing significant damage. Over and over again, Jake used his rear straights to drive Gib's nose into his head until the referee had no choice but to stop the fight, resulting in a TKO victory for Jake.
And now he's down again, and that is it.
This fight marked Jake's first showcase of his fighting intelligence against a highly aggressive opponent. Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson, nicknamed Kryptonite, faced Jake Paul in a highly anticipated match that was considered one of the funniest fights in Paul's career. This was due to the fact that the fight featured a blogger and a former basketball player with hip-hop legend Snoop Dogg serving as the commentator. It had all the makings of a comedy script. However, things didn't turn out to be so humorous for Robinson. As the fight started, he charged at Jake, just like Gib, but was unable to land a punch. Jake quickly showcased his wrestling skills, overpowering Robinson in the clinch. Meanwhile, Snoop Dogg added to the fun by cracking jokes about basketball shoes.
Look at him. Slow down, nephew. We got on basketball shoes. Do we got on boxing shoes? Hold on.
But just when everyone was laughing and enjoying the lighthearted atmosphere, Jake caught Robinson by surprise and delivered a shocking knockdown. At this point, everyone saw that Nate didn't know the basics. If you charge at your opponent, you must protect yourself. But Nate kept leaving himself wide open for Jake's punches. Another knockdown followed, just as it had happened when he tried to get close to Jake, and once again, the basketball player was eager to escape while the blogger was determined to finish the fight, and Snoop Dogg sang a song in honor of the knockdown.
Holy God, up.
Lead me on, let me stand.
Wow, nothing funny about what's happened with Nate Robinson.
Thus, this strange and comical fight ended with a knockout. Jake proved that a blogger makes a better boxer than a basketball player. The once lighthearted event turned into a brutal beating of a weaker fighter, and even Snoop Dogg wasn't so funny at the end. Tyron Woodley. From the such weird fight, we came to what could be Jake's biggest challenge yet, his second fight with Tyron Woodley. After Jake Paul shocked the world with his victory in the first fight, many thought Woodley would come back with a vengeance, but Paul had other plans.
I just bet I beat his ass, that's my bet.
I'ma eat your ass. I'ma beat your ass.
From the opening bell, Paul focused on Woodley's body, landing jabs and check hooks, keeping Woodley in a clinch and trying to tire him out. As fans of MMA know, Woodley and fatigue go hand in hand. Paul's strategy was to land powerful left hooks, which Woodley couldn't ignore. to use right punches more for the body, and also use more clinch to exhaust him even more. This effectively exhausted Woodley, reducing his alertness and distracted him from the very moment of Jake Paul's deception with a knockout straight that ultimately sent Woodley into retirement. By beating the former champion, Paul silenced his critics and showed his fighting IQ. Anderson Silva.
Like Anderson Silva when he was like 30 to 32. Woo!
He's going. I remember that. Longest reign.
You would watch him, you just like put your hands to your head and go, geez.
The fight between Jake and Anderson Silva was inevitable. It was the toughest fight for Jake as he faced the best MMA fighter in UFC history. Silva, almost 50 years old, still had the ability to beat any YouTuber boxer except for Jake. In the early rounds, Silva dominated as he taunted and cornered Jake, who was facing a strong boxer for the first time. But Silva had a weakness in close range, which Jake exploited. Anderson had a history of taunting his opponents in this distance and was famously knocked out by Chris Weidman in close range when he wasn't taking the fight seriously. That's why Jake kept jumping into the clinch, trying to beat Silva up close because Silva was too strong from a distance. The climax of this strategy came when Jake knocked down Silva as they exited the clinch. There were many debates about whether Silva had thrown the fight at that moment and the fight was rigged in general, but anyone familiar with boxing would tell you that it was a logical outcome given the game plan used by Jake. Ben Askren.
Hello, it's me.
We couldn't have forgotten about Ben Askren. Let's delve into the day when Jake fought his first real fighter who had a 19-2 MMA record. This was a crucial moment in Jake's career when people didn't believe in him and saw him only as a blogger, not the fighter we know now. Askren was a famous wrestler and a skilled fighter who always fought on the ground, making for an interesting matchup. When the fight began, it became clear that Ben can't be called a boxer. Even a weirdo like Gib would have had an advantage. Ben was just Ben, fighting in an MMA stance, trying to chase Jake with an open jaw and missing his blows. It seemed that he was destined to become just another highlight for Jake. All Ben could do was try to clinch and exhaust Jake, but there was no chance. Jake saw Ben's weakness and started spamming right straights. With one hit, Ben held out. With two hits, he fell. Jake silenced his haters once again, who will always keep writing comments such as, "Give him a real fighter now." So never doubt Jake Paul. If you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button.